Right, that definitely is your cue. And of course, it is time for the summit. It is the summit o'clock. Any moment from now, we'll do the magic. The lights will be on like that. And of course, we're going to say thank you for making time. Thank you for always choosing to be with us right here on the program. Remember, the longest month of the year, that is January, is almost taking a corner towards the finish line. It is the 24th of January 2024, and the past 2 days have been rigorous. There have been days where there's been a focus on sitting down and conversing and trying to look at solutions or potential solutions to some of the key challenges that affect one country, one nation, Rwanda, the great Republic of Rwanda. And I'm talking about the national dialogue, otherwise known as Umushyikirano. Of course, it came to a close today, but the conversation did not end there. It has continued, and it will continue as we speak right now. We are actually continuing that conversation right here. And so what I'm trying to say is that the summit is actually meeting the national dialogue. We're going to be having a dialogue right here on the summit on the national dialogue, just trying to understand what are some of those things that came out of this particular dialogue, and how do we even get to understand its perspective in terms of what it aims to achieve. For those who are watching this show for the first time, if you're seeing me for the first time, we want to say thank you for choosing us. As always, my name is Eugene Anangwe, and of course this particular program is live and very interactive. You can always be in touch or get in touch with us across our social media platforms. The hashtag to use on the X platform is the Summit RW. As we speak, we are live on our YouTube stream, as you can see over there. Whenever you want to send your feedback, please throw it out there. I'll be running right there to just read your feedback. So please keep your feedback going in there. Let us know where you're watching from and what question, what comment do you have. Let's have this dialogue right here on the national dialogue. Just to bring you to speed, for those who are probably hearing about Umushyikirano for the first time, you're wondering, what is this? Let's try to just look at some of the facts on the Umushyikirano fact sheet. What we know is that this year's Umushyikirano brought together 1,500 participants from across the country, and of course the Rwandan community abroad. Of course, leaders from the different levels of government, representatives from civil society organizations, and members of the private sector, including the youth representatives, the media, diplomatic community, and more, were attending this particular forum right here. It was a very important one, very significant one. And of course, what we also know is that the main focal points of this year's Umushyikirano discussions have been on the economy, citizen welfare, and of course good governance. Very important. The National Dialogue Council did theme this session around economic resilience, 7-year period, NST1 2017, looking through to 2024. Of course, the goals and resolutions that were achieved at a rate of 91%. If this was an examination, this would be a definite straight A+. We have a lecturer in the room. He'll be telling us about that particular scorecard right here. Of course, what we also know is that the economy did grow at a rate of 6.9% between 2017 to 2024, registering a slight decline of about 3.4%, which was attributed to the rampage that the COVID-19 pandemic did bring with it. During this particular 7-year period, the government revised land and resident taxes at all local government levels. These are some of the statements that were brought up at this particular dialogue. What we also know is that 3,700 kilometers of feeder roads were constructed out of a target of 3,000 kilometers. Of course, there was overshoot right there of around 700 kilometers. Of course, 2,160 kilometers of street lights was put in place out of a target of 2,400 kilometers. I think there's a slight underperformance right there of around 240 kilometers, if my mathematics is right there. Electricity was delivered to 1.5 million homes in the last 7 years. Interesting. Of course, as at 2017, the coverage of electricity was around 34.4% in terms of the number of homes that had electricity in percentage. And by 2023, this number is at 74% of homes that are fully connected. We're gazing at an 80%. Of course, 2024 just began, and I'm hoping that probably that number will be higher the next sitting of Umushyikirano. What we also know is that 7 water processing plants were constructed, including Nzove, Kanzenze, Gihira, Kanyonyomba, Moya, Ngombo, and of course, Nyankora. These are interesting names. I'm looking for a Rwandan name. Probably I'll be picking one from there. Of course, we also know that in terms of the jobs, 1.1 million jobs were created, according to the statements that were made at the National Dialogue. Out of the target of 1.5 million jobs, we're seeing a slight shortage of around 400,000 jobs right there in the period of 2017 to 2024. There are over 563 vocational schools so far in the country, and out of 416 of these schools, 392 have technical secondary schools. Very important numbers right there. They keep coming. In terms of health centers, there were around 495 as of 2017. The number is increasing in terms of the health centers that are being put together across the country, and there's also been an increase in the health posts from 473 in 2017 to 1,252 in 2023. There has been a decrease in number of persons succumbing to malaria from a rate of 427 in 2017 to just 35 as at 2023. Very important statistics. And of course, this is why we have this conversation right here on the summit. We want to understand these numbers, make sense of them, and of course I want to bring in my panelists right here in studio. And of course, like I said, it is your show. All you need to do is just get conversational with us. What do you think? What was your key takeaway? What was your major highlight at the National Dialogue? Of course, what are the things that you feel could have been discussed that were not discussed, that we can actually discuss right here on this particular platform tonight? I have Ignatius Kabagambe, a long friend. We've come a long way since way back, I think, the Contact FM days in other lives. And of course, you're now today the head of corporate communication at the University of Rwanda, but also a great citizen of this great country, Rwanda. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and for the first time at the summit.
It is the first time on the summit. Thank you very much. Not a first time for Dr. Alphonse Murefu coming in on the program. Of course, he's a senior lecturer, School of Law, University of Rwanda. Thank you so much for making time and being with us right here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Right. And of course, like I said, you're welcome to this particular program to share your views on this particular conversation. I want to start off with first-timers on the program. Ignatius, I want to read your thoughts, first of all. I know there are people who watch this program from far and wide. There's a guest that I wanted to join us from outside of this country, and he couldn't make head or tail of what Umushyikirano is. And I know there are many of such people who probably are watching us and they don't understand what is this National Dialogue. Let's take a look at the whole concept around the National Dialogue. What would you be able to pick from that concept? How significant is us sitting for 2 days discussing the nation?
Yeah, thank you, Eugene. Listening to people who were here earlier in the day, and one of them was a senator, I forget his name. I think he gave us a background, and it was so rich, and it helped me. That this Umushyikirano National Council Dialogue is very historical. It was a way of governance that was used in this country even before it became a republic, during the days of the kings and the monarchy. And he told us a story, and I even learned the origin of a saying in Kinyarwanda, which is called Gusasinzobe. And he said that this used to happen, where the king would call his territorial administrators, people who were in charge of his people across the country, and they would come to the palace, and he would have time with them. And so Gusasinzobe that he said, Inzobe is an antelope of a brown color. In Kinyarwanda it's called Inzobe. So Gusasinzobe meant that they got its skin, put it down here in front of the king, and the king would place his legs there, his 2 feet there, and that would be a sign that whatever is going to be said right in that meeting, candid, very honest, as open as it could be, would have no repercussion to anyone who would say it. It would be for his benefit, but ultimately for the benefit of the people with whom he had on the heart in terms of good governance. So that is, and so he was comparing Umushyikirano to that, those kinds of session. And he also mentioned something that, by the way, that wasn't enough. And again, it's similar to what I see in this country, that even after those leaders would have been with the king,
Yeah.
he would still have time to go now to where the people are.
Yeah, to get first-hand information.
Yes, and I see it here also. The president does that quite often when he does outreaches anywhere in the country, anytime, depending on the time he has. And then, but I now realize that it has the Umushyikirano we are seeing today has a historical background right in the. It's a legacy. It's a legacy that I can say this current Rwanda system of administration borrowed, like we have. It has been borrowing a number of them with the intention of making sure that we always improve our own way of doing things, do things better, looking at the modern ways of governance, but also looking back in the past.
Of where we've come from.
Good things we can borrow from them.
Right. Interesting that you take us back down memory lane, Dr. Mrefu, from the history to today's case or scenario that we see today. It was the 19th edition. And I want to pick from you, what are the things that you'd say stood out in terms of the evolution of this historical setting, in the words of Kabagambe?
I want to, first of all, emphasize the importance of Umushyikirano.
Yes.
And I think people need to understand that this is one of the most sophisticated tools of governance than any other, because of different reasons. One being the different categories of people who participate, but also the combination of tools that you find in it. There is an aspect of transparency, there is accountability, but there is also pluralist democracy because of the different interests that are represented.
Yeah.
But there is also direct participation of citizens, and all that being backed by the fact that, despite the fact that the president has different forums of meeting people, this is the only forum that is provided for in the Constitution.
Right. Cemented on the Constitution.
It is a constitutional obligation for the president to host and organize and decide who to participate in this dialogue, to discuss two main things, the state of the nation and national unity.
Yeah.
So this year's Umushyikirano was special because it looked because we are coming at the end of the NCT1.
Yes.
So it was kind of evaluating the past 7 years.
Yes.
But it also put emphasis on the role of the youth. Given the fact that the post-genocide Rwanda is reaching 30 years, and that 30 years is an age of maturity to a certain extent. And that was very much
evident
in the discussions, the theme, but also how it was emphasized as young people being the future of this country.
Right. I'll come back so that we can talk a bit about the youth. But before we do that, let's take a look at when something is done over and over again. Sometimes there's what some people would call, some fatigue in terms of that. How do we ensure that there is no that level of fatigue in terms of the whole concept remaining fresh, relevant over and over time? Because like Kabagambe, you mentioned, it's from the prehistoric level. There's a connection in there. And now we have young people, like Dr. Mrefu said, who really need now to understand their role in nation building and continuation of this in that sense. How do we still make this very relevant for them?
Yeah, I can compare it to what religious people do, what the pastors do, what the priests do. Good ones, I have been watching them, following some of the famous ones and very experienced.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily find new messages. They repeat the same key messages in the Bible for emphasis.
Yes.
Because those key messages are the ones that carry the kind of things that, okay, in the Bible's case, God, but in the politician's sense, what the things that are in place, you agree, the decisions, the policies, the delivery of services, the transparency that Dr. Mref just said, the responsiveness of leaders. The message is the same.
Yeah.
And whenever, even to me, who is listening, let me put myself in the shoes of a beneficiary, as a citizen.
Yeah.
If I'm expecting something from my government, and it has been done, not to the level I need it, or it hasn't been done,
Yeah.
so I'm always going to be interested in following a conversation led by the head of state,
Yeah.
urging his lieutenants, his ministers, his administrators, to do what they agreed in the previous meetings, Umushyikirano, Mwiherero, cabinet meetings, and other meetings where decisions are agreed. I mean, discussions are made and then decisions are made.
Yeah.
So me as a person listening, I'm always going to be interested.
Yes.
And now, the people who are being urged to do more and they take interest in how the president delivers it, sometimes with a tone of frustration that what was agreed wasn't done to expectation, to the levels required, to the levels agreed. So the one who is being urged to raise the game and do as expected, how can you be bored? You cannot. How can you switch off? Because you are being put in the spotlight, being asked to do what you agreed to do. I mean, and the president always makes this key point of saying, but the things that we want to do, we agree to do, it isn't like they are impossible. These are achievable within our means. So he's always coming back to challenges. So he's always motivated because that is his job, that is his commitment, that is his calling, that is what he's very good at. And so, be it the president, he can never get tired because he knows what he owes to this nation. Yeah. Taking it to a level that he feels it is capable of going to. Yeah. Then there are people who are partners in implementation, and that is officials of government, and they have contracts with him, with each other. This is what we have to do. When they haven't done it, they can't switch off. When he's asking questions, there's no way they're going to be bored. And then the citizen, is even more excited, because at the end of the day, if things are going well, the things of governance, the things of citizen welfare, the things of economic development, the things of security, when they are going well, we as the citizens are the direct beneficiaries. So I don't see how anyone can lose interest. Yeah. And again, I will say that the key messages don't need to be new, even if you were repeating them year after year, for as long as they remain important to the well-being of this nation. Everyone is always going to be interested.
Everyone is going to be interested. Dr. Mrefu, especially looking at the involvement of young people and also the incorporation of even technology in terms of connecting different sites. We had Poland joining this particular conversation and other nations and citizenries. How best do you think this can be continued to keep it more relevant and remain relevant even to the generations that are coming in, like you said, 30 years now. You know, these are really adult people in terms of the post-genocide, group.
Yes, I think there is always a need to keep up with the way the world is evolving, and use the channels that are popular, given a particular moment. And that's why I think the use of media was very important, given the fact that there are so many opportunities today to reach out to many people. And since Umushyikirano has that aspect of transparency, as in providing information to people, then it couldn't miss that opportunity. Maybe something also that we need to understand that makes people take Umushyikirano very seriously is that its decisions are constitutionally mandated to be implemented.
Right.
So the decisions, the resolutions of Umushyikirano are supposed to be submitted to all institutions that are concerned to implement. So there is expectation for the coming Umushyikirano to see whether what was pledged in the previous Umushyikirano has been implemented. So the combination of the fact that there are now so many channels of reaching out to people through various forms of media, and the fact that people are aware that the decisions that are going to be made are indeed going to be implemented, that makes it very attractive, and people keep interested in following.
Right.
Yeah, and by the way, also, he mentioned it. The way it many times provides instant solutions. You talked about Poland and the people who are there gathered and taking part. And one issue that stood out is that student who said because of the war between Ukraine and Russia, there were students in Ukraine where education was not as costly as it is in Poland, where they shifted to because of the war. And he was appealing to the president, because the students said that the cost of education has like tripled. And that became a problem because that's something they were not prepared for. And immediately the president felt that was so sensitive. Didn't even let other questions come. He just felt like, no, Prime Minister, Minister of Education, Minister of Prime Minister, Minister of Education, I forget.
And Minister of Health.
And Minister of Health, because they are students, or they are medical students. And said, that needs to be done. And so, and that's not the only one. You remember also today, Jimmy Murisa was talking about the need to revive the competition in sports among schools. By the way, he mentioned it. I felt it's something that, because you don't see it, you don't see the vibrancy in secondary schools, universities. I've seen it coming up, but he mentioned it, and you could feel like it is needed, and probably it could positively contribute towards the development of sports. In his case, it was football. So that particular aspect of Umushyikirano, where citizens bring their issues and mention them right in front there, get immediate answers. This is going to be done. Or if it's not going to be done, still the president is going to be honest with you and say, no, for these reasons, and explain. But that immediacy also keeps things very appealing.
Very appealing. And I think there's something Dr. Mrefu also mentioned about whatever discussed or whatever is discussed is actually legally binding in terms of the need to actually implement them. But the question that comes next is, what happens if they are not achieved? You know, sometimes it has seemingly be seen as if it is only the responsibility of the president to castigate officials who have not delivered on their required duties. What then becomes of the role of the rest of us? We've read the numbers here. There are some decisions that were supposed to meet a certain target. They did not meet, even by slight numbers, but they did not. So the question is, what happens during Mushirano and it has not been met, or even when these decisions are decided at the Mushirano level, the implementation phase, what do we do as others? What's the role of the others in terms of ensuring accountability from that sense? Maybe from a legal perspective, who does what?
Mushirano itself is a form of accountability. So having leaders there under pressure, that something will come up that I was supposed to do, that I did not perform the way I was expected, that in itself is a different form of accountability. And it combines two forms of accountability. Vertical accountability, because this is someone who is being accountable to his or her immediate superior.
Yes.
But there is also horizontal accountability, because you are being asked to answer on certain things in front of your peers, and being asked to answer by ordinary citizens. So that in itself puts a lot of pressure on actors. And I can assure you, I think no leader that goes to Umushyikirano without checking his or her notebook if things were not going well, whether he or she has genuine and persuasive responses.
Right, and that's the question I'm asking, because they will be either expecting that pressure to be pushed from the head of state, or probably a citizen would ask it at the Umushyikirano level. But my question is, by the time we are having that sit down at Kigali Convention Center a year later to talk about that failure of meeting that particular thing, what should we be doing? Who should be doing what? And has that been happening in terms of keeping those responsible accountable, such that someone doesn't have to sit with a problem until the next 20th edition of Mushirano to be able to raise it for us to know that they have not been able to achieve it or not? That's the question I'm asking.
I think there are different forums in which accountability takes place. The president himself conducts visits in different parts of the country. And today, if you've been tagged and tweeted and something is raised, you will need to answer. So there are different forums. We have different forms of auditing. There are performance evaluations. So this is one forum among many other forums of accountability. And the things that people are asked to account for are the same things in their responsibilities. So this, as I said, this is one of the most sophisticated one, where you find that there is a complex interventions of different approaches that converge at the same time. There is the president, but there is also other actors that also have the responsibility of ensuring that different institutions and public officials are doing what they are supposed to be doing.
Right.
And that combination, I think, makes Mushikirano much more special, but there are different other forms of accountability. To follow up on what people are supposed to be doing.
Right.
In today's plenary, I saw the president doing a very positive shortcut during the question and answer session, where after receiving all the questions from participants in Rwanda and outside, he introduced something new where he said, we don't have to ask every responsible leader, minister to respond to these questions, because it's clear whom they are going to. So instead, he went through them and mentioning one by one, and also pointing out who is responsible. He did it in a summarized way to save time, but everyone, by the end of his intervention, everyone had had the question, been reminded of the question, and who is going to take care of the question. And he said something very important, that, let everyone responsible, every responsible official, every responsible office, go and take care of this. What we are going to need after some time is feedback from the people who raised these issues.
Whether it was done or not.
And then we shall have reason to follow up and hold the people who are responsible accountable. So that is something very good. It makes things easy. The other thing which you mentioned that is also true, of course, these opportunities of accountability, like Dr. Muriev mentioned. He said it's one of the accountability opportunities, sessions, platforms.
But not the end.
Not the end. And you mentioned what normally happens before. Different offices, officials, organs of the state, departments are working hard, running fast to make sure that by the time umushyikirano comes, as many issues as possible have been resolved. At least those within their means. So that can be seen from a negative and positive side, because you can say, okay, why wait? Why wait? And that's a legitimate question. But the positive side of it is that, okay, at least we have that moment once in a year when people to fix issues. And it provides momentum, wherever resources come from, wherever commitment comes from, wherever time comes from. But at the end of the day, it solves problems. And by the time they go there, because they know, even if, the citizens will raise them, and the president will hold them us accountable. And so they make sure they have done as much as possible to resolve issues before Mushyikirano. If that is happening every once a year, that's not a bad thing. But one thing I also wanted to mention is that, true to what the president always says, I think we can do better. No one says we can do better. And when we are responding to his queries and answering the questions, or you see us, the officials, I'm saying us because I'm just saying if I were the one there. Say, nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika nkuko muhora mubidukangurira. You understand that? You always remind us. Nkuko muhora mubidukangurira. And so that is an attribution to him, that he's always consistent, he's always on the point, he doesn't get tired. Nkuko mudahwema never gets tired to fight for the people, to encourage, to uplift, to make sure he is providing direction. That's on one side, that's what he says. So give credit where it is due, and it is due to the president. On the other hand, what I am admitting, me who is saying, Nyako President wa Repubulika, nkuko muhora mubidukangurira, muduhwitura, I am admitting, without knowing, that I need to be reminded always.
All the time.
All the time. I am admitting that I am a slow learner, and indeed I am a slow learner, but it's good to admit. But that is the truth about it. And I think what the president is looking for from us is going to that level where we could be saying that nkuko mwabidutoje, twarabifashe, and so that is one area that where we need to find something. What is the president's expectations too high for us? Why is it so difficult for us to have that attitude. Let me look at one particular issue that keeps coming. The president complains about it year after year.
Yes.
Coordination,
yes.
talking between officials, collaboration, working together. And he said today that there is no ministry that can do a thing on its own.
Yeah.
That's why when it comes to that issue of the students in Poland, it was the Prime Minister's office, Minister of Health, and then Minister of Education. And so he's wondering why is it not, why is it
straightforward?
Why is it difficult?
Why is it difficult?
Those questions, probably that's where we need to, thank you for asking those questions, those hard questions, but I see that it is possible to raise our game, to change our attitudes and do better. We know he's a demanding head of state, but I think we also cannot sit here and say, we do the best we can, we're sorry, the best is not good enough for you, Mr. President. But I think if we examine ourselves, I think we can do better.
We can do better. I believe so. And I think why I was asking that question is because it is not supposed to be seen as citizens have to just say, I'm going to wait for the opportunity where the president is seated there for me to be able to raise this because other organs failed me. The media that I went to did not raise this issue enough for the organs that are supposed to deal with it So I think for me, the only hope I have is to raise it where the president is seated. And I think that speaks to a level of failure on other organs in that case. But then what I want to ask now is, it was also an opportunity for the head of state to do or deliver the State of the Nation address. And I think it's very important for us to just try and spend some minutes and try to evaluate. What were you hearing from the head of state, Dr. Mrefu, when he stood there and made the State of the Nation address? What are the things that stood out for you? As a person who switched on your TV or attended in person, what were you expecting to hear? What were your fears? You went in hoping that they would be, answered or fixed. And then when listening to the head of state, what came out? What do you think was very important that you could pick out from what he said?
I think the report that was made by the Prime Minister was generally touching on the major socio-economic aspects of the nation.
Yeah.
Then the president talked about the aspect of security.
Yes.
In his first opening speech, but also in his opening speech, but also in the closing speech. And this is given the situation at the moment that was not only expected, but also needed. Needed because the reality is that Rwanda is safe, is secure. But security is also about perception.
Yes, yes.
So the fear that our way of living can be threatened. And the president had to assure people that that is not going to happen. And in terms of perception, you as a citizen, you want to be assured that, because security is not only about the absence of threats,
yes,
but it is also ability of the state to be able to defend and defeat those threats the moment those threats turn into action. And I think that was very well received.
Yes, and received.
And people clearly got the message. And so I think that was very important. In terms of economic growth, you realize that there was the acknowledgement the progress has been made, but there are still some challenges and there is a lot to be done.
Yeah.
The president insisted on something very that he also keeps on repeating, service delivery, implementation of agreed plans, development agenda, and the fact that because and probably I will touch a little bit on the aspect of mindset, which also came out strongly in both speeches. The president, because it is difficult to change mindset because people are likely to fall back into their usual habits. So the reason you pass through this load every day is not necessarily because you have rational reasons as to why you do so, but it's because that is what you are used to. So habits sometimes undermine the desire to change. And what the president was saying, which I think people needed to think about, is that there is an intentional, it needs to be intentional for people to change, to not do things the way they are used to doing those things.
And even how they look at themselves, how they
because
perceive
their
themselves.
dignity, but also to perform. Because you need to have, because having a mindset change is not enough without knowledge and skills for people to implement the desired goal, to achieve the desired goal. And the president seemed to argue that after 30 years, yes, there are still some gaps, but we have enough to make the difference, to make the change that we want to achieve.
Right. Interesting. But then, Kabagambe, I know it was obvious that the head of state was going to touch on the security issues. But then, from where you sit, listening to his State of the Nation address, what came out as surprising? What came out as, you know, in a way that you felt this is unique? This is very instrumental. It's going to change perceptions in one way or another. What did you pick?
Actually, the unique thing about him, about Rwanda, is that he never tires to repeat the same messages. He never gives up. And that makes the difference. Because when you listen to him at the beginning and you listen to him at the end, his speech has parts of it that are very tough, calling upon people to do a lot better, pointing to underperformances, the lack of coordination we're talking about, not doing as much as we can do. And you look at him and say, oh my God, is he talking from the point of view of bad performance? I was looking at the economy, the numbers you projected there before this conversation. I think from 2017 to date, the average has been around 7%. That's not bad. Yesterday I listened to the statistics, one particular one by the Minister of Agriculture. I was talking about milk consumption in the region. Rwanda came second only to your country because, you know, but 78 liters per person in a year. That is a good. That's a good thing. And also, Rwanda is not where. I mean, we are not in a bad state. Look at our region and see how we are doing. We are not bad off. I have a feeling that one of the reasons we are doing as well as we are doing is because he never tires. He never tires. So frustrate a little bit, but it works for Rwanda. My takeaways, just like what Muref mentioned. Well, I think he started yesterday with talking about how, and that was even, it came ahead of a very positive report by the Prime Minister, but still the President was right on our case, on each and every one as a case, saying, why are we not doing this? Why are we not more responsive? Why are we not more transparent? Why are we not more collaborative as departments of government? And so he highlights that. He says no. It's like for him, he never looks at the good that has already been done. He always looks at the better that is possible.
That can be done.
That can be done. And so he will never change. He is like that. So if we are growing at 7% annually, for him, he asks himself, why not 12? Because it is possible. I think that's what he's always having on his mind. Number two, then the attitude aspect. That again Dr. Muref touches, because he thinks, he knows, we know that if it was better, it would do a lot of difference. Today, remember in his closing speech, he mentioned something about the things we don't do in our offices, with our colleagues, with our bosses, and he touched the aspect of fear. I said, fear? Oh my God, why do you fear to do something that you assume will displease anyone, or because someone has authority over you, and you never fear the consequences related to you not doing
it? Yes.
And so those are the things that he touches, and you feel they are so real. I know someone who normally says, you know what, I want to be so daring and have problems with my bosses other than being timid.
And not achieve anything.
And that's what the president is talking about. So attitudes, and so related to when he said, what's wrong with us? What's wrong with you, African? What are we going to not work as hard as we can and gain and progress and prosper as much as possible, as fast as possible, and wean ourselves from the handouts from the people, and cease to give them reasons to exploit and dominate and and things like that. That really is something that he never tires. And I think, again, coming back to the results, we compare ourselves because of the benefit of that regular reminder. I think we are somewhere, but that, having said that, I think it is also a source of encouragement. It says, okay, I'm seeing some result. I need to keep doing more of this since I'm seeing it achieving, giving us good results. Lastly, the security aspect. The president knows what the capacity Rwanda has in terms of protecting the nation, the RDF and other organs of security of the state. He knows that. And there are a number of other people who know that. But he also understands that there are people who, when they listen to a neighboring state, his head of state, talking about the possibility of attacking Rwanda, people may take that to be serious. The president knows it's a joke. Actually, he will think maybe they are doing it to gain electoral advantage. But he knows, he's so aware that there are people who are not as conscious as that about the capabilities of national defense and security apparatus, and they would feel scared. To be honest with you, I never feel scared. Instead, I find it my role to talk to the people in the Mudugudu where I lead or where I work, to say, but you guys, are you really scared? So assuring us again, assuring the nation that relax. He called it go and sleep. You know, those fatishy things and bubbly are not as heavy as they look. So relax. We can take care of any threat, especially that when it comes to defending this nation, I wouldn't ask anyone's permission to go and do what our job is.
Right. And so many people are sleeping soundly today. And I want us to go and just read some of the feedback. I'm told that we have a lot of feedback. I just want to go to a magic wall on our YouTube stream, just to be able to read some of the feedback that I'm told is over there. So maybe Kawagambe and Dr. Mrefu, you guys are sleeping soundly, eh? Eh? Kabisa, kabisa. Okay. Kawagambe said he was never scared, but a few people within the Mudugudu are a bit worried. So maybe in a nutshell, how do you ensure that whatever conversations, the panels, the speeches, the numbers that were announced over there, we keep moving forward. We do not say, another big event in the national events calendar is behind us. Kumugongo, so that is gone. So now let's go back to business as usual. How do you ensure that we are remaining consistent in building upon the blocks of success from the conversations from such forums like Umushyikirano?
Even the most resourceful nations will find it sometimes impossible to provide to all the needs of citizens.
Yeah.
But at least what people expect is to see that in the process of prioritizing, you have reasons why you've decided to do what you're doing among many priorities that exist. So going forward, I think as the president himself said, it is not that people are not necessarily performing. And the statistics were there to prove it.
Yeah.
But the president was saying that it is possible to multiply what that is being done. And what we are achieving now can be multiplied because there are now evidence of enough resources, but mainly human resources, skills and knowledge of people who are capable. They only need to come together to understand the urgency of the need to do these things very fast.
Right. I want to read just some feedback. I have Mushambo Robert, who's on a YouTube platform. He says, I've come to notice that most resolutions taken since 2017 are recurring. They keep coming back, such as transport, education, and welfare. He goes on to say that more specific areas of focus should be researched and out in place, because we know there are many hidden pressing needs that Rwandans deserve in terms of fixing. And this is a comment that I think we can be able to take our quick, way forwards on this. Maybe, Kawagambe, we don't have so much time. We just probably throw in a word or two in terms of what are the things that probably you think should have been given more weight, they never did, and probably if we had another opportunity, we could be able to, press on them.
I think you can't beat government with all the work that goes in before Umushyikirano.
Yeah.
In looking at the key areas and making the right conversations and picking out on the right people to talk about issues at hand.
Yeah.
What that person is saying, issues are recurring. That is true. My view is that even though they may be unresolved, it isn't like they haven't been attended to. The president talked about something related to resources. That at the end of the day, we want to do so much, but we have only so much resources. And so someone who just talked about transportation, infrastructure, and other things. There are quite a number. And so my view is that one of the reasons, besides what the president says, said that we can do more, and indeed, by the time he says it, he knows. But he also, in saying what he said, and it was in response to a student, University of Rwanda student, who was requesting that their living allowances be increased from 40 to a certain more favorable figure for them. He said, right, so the president said, okay, government does this. Education takes a lot of resources, a very significant percentage. The reason we are not doing immediately what you are asking for is it has to do with availability of resources, and exactly related to what that is. I think also, and those infrastructure projects take a hell of money. So for as long as there is commitment to do them, they're in the plan. I think what remains is for us to be patient. But we must, it's okay to keep mentioning them.
Yeah, we must keep pressing.
We must
keep pressing. I'm told we are running out of time. Dr. Mrefu, do you want to just squeeze in less than a minute? Just your closing thoughts.
Yeah, I think issues of national agenda are never off the table.
Yeah.
So we will keep having these kind of conversations every year.
Yeah.
And the issues will not change.
Yeah.
What people will keep on talking about is how fast are we improving.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kawagambe. Thank you so much, Dr. Mrefu. And thank you, too, for also being part of this particular conversation that we always have right here on the summit. The conversations will not wait for every year. We'll keep having them right here every week, Wednesdays, 9 p.m. And, of course, also across our social media platforms. When they end on these four walls, we continue talking on our social media platforms. We want to say thank you for making time. As always, my name is Eugene Andangwe. Goodbye for now.